How's it going, everybody? This is Dominic Minchella. I am the Kansas City Chiefs beat writer on SI and the host of the Kansas City Chiefs Insider Podcast. You guys know the deal. Once again, thank you so much for stopping in whatever time you have. I do appreciate it. Always do, always will. So, breaking down, we're going to go into a bunch of breakdowns now that we're getting a little bit closer to the start of the season. And the next 7 episodes will be breaking down the primetime games that the Chiefs have this season in terms of from worst to best. But in this case, we're going to go top to bottom. So we're going to start off with the worst game, quote unquote, just talking about form of like markability, the game factors, how big it is. Obviously, we will touch on 7 because the Chiefs lead the NFL with 7 primetime games, followed by the Dallas Cowboys with 6. So, without further ado, let's get into these breakdowns, or the first breakdown, rather. So, the first, in my opinion, the first or the least impactful, least anticipated of the primetime games for the Kansas City Chiefs comes in week 3 against the New York Giants. There are some cool implications going into this game, though. For instance, this will be the Giants' home opener, which works perfectly for television if you think about it. It's showcasing a up-and-coming team in the Giants with their home faithful rooting behind them and a very popular team in the Kansas City Chiefs. You know it's going to be electric in New York. They want to make sure that they give every ounce of distraction that they can to the Chiefs offense and the defense. But in terms of where the other or compared to the other primetime games that they have on the schedule, I think that this is the worst one. So let's break it down. The predicted matchup as of right now for in terms of quarterbacks will be Russell Wilson versus Patrick Mahomes. And Russell Wilson, he's was a very good quarterback. I just think that Father Time is starting to catch up to him. He had some success last season with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they were able to win a few games, get to the playoffs, but their playoff run was very short-lived. The Giants signed Russell Wilson. They also have Jameis Winston as well. And a cool factor that could come into play depending on how the training camp works, Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart is another quarterback that would be very interesting to see go up against Patrick Mahomes. He recently just got picked up and drafted by the Giants in the 2025 NFL draft. But I don't see them thrusting him into the starting role in the first 3 weeks. I think that those will go to Wilson or Winston. The excitement level of taking on Russell Wilson has definitely decreased as the years have gone on just because of age. And nothing against Russell Wilson. I do mean all of this with the utmost respect. But last season, he's coming off the worst year in terms of passing yards, not touching 3,000. He had 16 touchdowns, which also ties a career low. He's just starting to slow down, doesn't have a whole lot of movement in rushing terms and all that. He just, compared to Patrick Mahomes, I think that they're going to be able to do well. And especially with how the defense for the Chiefs is set up, the likes of even rookie Omar Norman Lott, I think he could be a huge factor. This could be like his big breakout game. I do think that they will try and get Omar into the defensive scheme, at least in the first few games. And if it is up against the Giants and say that there's a blowout, just have him go out there and, show us what you've got. I think that he's going to be one of the best rookies on the team in year one, because we don't know based off of how Josh Simmons' knee is health currently right now. But there are some there's some bright spots for the Giants. They've got Malik Neighbors. He had 7 touchdowns last year, a tad over 1,200 receiving yards. He's a nice little player to develop around. I just think that compared to where the Chiefs are currently and the Giants are currently, this game doesn't necessarily jump off the page to anybody. It's kind of the Giants need a primetime game. Let's pair them up against the team that draws the most attention in the Kansas City Chiefs. Totally makes sense. But there is some cool implications as well. The Giants in history against the Chiefs hold an 11 wins and 4 loss record against the franchise. Crazy, right? When I looked it up, it was just did the research. It just seemed baffling just given how the Giants have performed lately. Uh the most recent game came back in 2021. This will be their first matchup since 2021. Also, the second time that Patrick Mahomes will be playing against the Giants. He hasn't lost to the Giants. So saying that, the history and all that history is going to repeat itself. If that's the case, Patrick Mahomes, if he's out there at quarterback, he hasn't lost to the Giants, and I don't see him losing anyways. It's going to be a competitive game. I don't want to count out any team in the NFL, obviously, because they're all professionals. I just don't see this as the best marquee game that they have. As I said, the Chiefs recently won their last game against the Giants. Fun game to watch, but I think moving forward, for the Giants, and at least in the prime time slot for the Kansas City Chiefs, their games will just continuously get better while the Giants have to, go through the highs and lows of another season of working with rookies, working with veterans, aging veterans, how to fill the needs of both sides of the ball. But I do think that this is a prime opportunity for the Chiefs to have their rookies, multiple rookies, uh, kind of stepping to the scheme. If there's doesn't even have to be a blowout. I know I stated that earlier, but it doesn't have to be. These guys, I think, the Chiefs are going to try their best to get these rookies, undrafted free agents, whoever makes the roster, into games to get professional experience. That's the only way that they're going to learn. I touched on Omar Norman Lott. I think Jalen Royals has a potential to make a factor in this game, whether he's either in punt or kick returns or just a normal receiver, depending on where Rashee Rice is feeling in his health. There hasn't been an update yet. Also, Brashard Smith, Jeffrey Bassa, Noel Williams. Those are guys that I'm excited to see them work. And with the youthfulness of the Giants, it would be cool to see the new youth of Kansas City Chiefs players kind of take on the current youth of the Giants organization. Just a little, storyline to follow along. But in conclusion, I see the Giants week 3 primetime game against the Kansas City Chiefs as the least excitable game that the Chiefs have in their primetime slate. That being said, guys, you know the drill by now. Down below on the ticker, you can follow me on X at Dominchella. I post and repost every single day. We get closer and closer to the season. More of these stories are going to keep on coming out. You can also follow us at KC Chiefs on X, at KC Chiefs on SI on X. I apologize for that. Those are all posted. All our stories are there. You can find us on Facebook, anywhere. We have all the news, and we're going to keep on covering it for you guys. As always, we're going to keep getting closer and closer to the 2025 NFL campaign. Remember to be kind to one another, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.